morning. Welcome back to Off the Cuff. I'm Corey Knowles here from the Daily Statesman. This morning we have some special guests. We have Larry Thompson, Bob Gosnell, and Gary Kinchin here this morning, and we're going to talk about this fancy vehicle we see beside us here. Tell us a little about this. This is your radio unit, right?
This is a emergency communications vehicle, or an EMCOM vehicle. Two of these in our region.
How big is Region 7?
4 states.
Oh wow, there's only 2 of them.
Missouri, Iowa, Kansas.
Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska. My goodness, that's a lot of time. How did you get involved in this?
Gary got in Mars first. All of us had been in Mars years ago, but Gary got in it first a couple of years ago, and he encouraged Bob and I to get in, and we became a team, and we basically saw a need for an EMCOM vehicle, something that could move around. Well,
yeah.
Most of our stations are residents.
Yeah.
We wanted something where we could.
It's mobile. That's great. That's great. It's an interesting vehicle. Where'd you come into it?
Well, I was on Craigslist one evening, and Larry and I had talked about doing something like this prior. He went out to Joplin back when they had the big tornado with his church, and while he was out there, he just was probably broken of what he's seen. So when he came back, he sat down with me and we talked about getting an emergency unit set up, and then along comes, of course, Gary with the Mars, so it worked out real good. But I was on Craigslist and seen this vehicle for sale and called Larry, and we went and looked at it. Larry just wrote him a check, so
there we go.
That's how we come about it there. But from there, we just started tearing it down. And
yeah, I assume it didn't look like this when you got it.
No. It was an old ambulance, I think, from Kentucky, wasn't it? Paducah, yeah.
1980, 81, is it?
80.
One thing that really prompted us to come up with an emergency communications vehicle, it's been 200 years since New Madrid earthquake, the largest earthquake that ever happened in the United States. Fortunately, at that time, there were not very many people living in this area, or it would have been really devastating.
Oh, yeah.
December the 16th, 1811 is when the first quake started. Just a little over 200 years ago now.
Yeah.
When I got to Mars, it was exactly the 200th anniversary. And one thing, reading the accounts of what happened in 1811 and through a series of earthquakes ending in March or April of 1812, ash and sand and smoke was actually thrown up in the air for 1,000 feet or so. Oh, wow. And the old timers that wrote about it then claimed that the sun didn't shine for 6 months in southeast Missouri.
My goodness.
Because of the debris. If that would happen today, communications as we know it would cease. Cell phones would not work. Landline phones would not work. There would be no electricity anywhere in southeast Missouri. So a vehicle like this can operate in an environment like that and still talk to the outside world. We're so dependent anymore. I noticed a couple of years ago, ice storm, reaching and flipping the switch and no lights coming on. And I was just astounded that, hey, I'm flipping the switch and there's no lights coming on. Well, it's going to be the same way with communication.
But over a lot longer span.
Over a lot longer span. So something like this can get the word out, tell the help that we need, maybe even transmit casualty lists, or good news. Hey,
yeah,
Aunt Maudie's fine.
Yeah,
she's alive and well and living in a shelter and everything's great. Just to be able to get the word out and get word into people.
That's right.
It would be a godsend for something like that. So we're hoping that we never have to use it, but we may have to.
You may have to. You never
and we'll
know.
Continue practicing,
even though you hope you don't have to.
It's not a real world situation.
So will you work in conjunction with law enforcement, emergency personnel, things like that, or with the county in any way? Or?
We will serve any agency that requests our assistance, whether it be law enforcement, the health departments, anything like that. Anybody that needs a specialized communication system, we will try to help them. We not only have voice radio, we have digital computerized, kind of like teletype, only over the radio waves.
Yeah.
So we can send computer messages.
Oh wow.
One of the first things that's going to go down is the internet.
Yeah, that'll be step one.
Everybody depends on the internet. Well, we can send an internet message by radio to a place where the internet works. It may be Kansas, or it may be Nebraska.
Yeah.
But then they can send the internet message on
to whoever,
to everybody else.
Oh, well, that's great.
Getting the word out is the main thing.
Oh yeah.
And this thing is mobile enough that it can go just about any location. We call it the mule because it can go in some pretty confined
I'll bet it
places.
can. I'll bet it can. We've sure fixed it up nice. It's interesting. Said you have your antenna's 30 feet?
The mast is 30 feet in the air.
30
the
feet.
antenna is 140 feet long.
140 feet long.
Yeah, 70 foot on each side.
Wow. That's something. Well, I think that's about it. I just wanted to tell the public a little about what you've got going here. It's a neat project. It's something that'll be good for the area in the future. Hopefully it won't be. Hopefully we'll have absolutely no use for it, but it's the real world.
It's real.
And there's a good chance one of these days we will.
One of the things about Mars, it's all volunteer. Everybody provides their own equipment. There isn't any funding, any government funding, anything like that. So everything in here we've come up with.
Out of your own pocket.
Out of our own pockets. And Mars as a whole, the entire system, it's all volunteers using their own equipment.
That's great. That's impressive that there are people like you guys willing to do that. These are tight times, and to be able to think about other people and the future and the needs of the community and the needs of the many.
We all
it's
have
important.
families here too, so
That's
we have
right.
a vested interest.
That's right. And maybe far away that you'll be worried about just as well.
That's right.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for coming and enjoyed it. It's been interesting.
You bet.
Thank you, Bob.
Anytime.
Gary.
Thanks, Corey.
I'm Corey Knowles with The Statesman, and we'll be back next week with another guest. Thanks for watching.